Greetings to the 12 tribes of Yasharahla that are scattered to the four corners of the world. I am back with another video, and family, forgive me. My heart is heavy today. Today is the Day of Atonement. And as I turn down my plate, I just have been thinking about how far we've fallen as a people. Um, it's And when I think about just the atrocities that we've experienced, it's really heartbreaking. All at our own hands, all because of our disobedience, um, as a people. And right now, the enemy has us divided and has us individualized and thinking about ourselves as a whole, just as individuals, when we should be thinking about Yasharahla, because it's us as the children of Jacob that Ahaya is looking at. It can't just be one person. Um, and so we have to think collectively together as us as a unit. But the rabbit hole goes deep, you all. And so today I'm just gonna title, I don't know what this message will be titled, but we've been lied to. We've had the wool pulled over our eyes for too long, but now it's time for us to wake up. Now, the truth is being revealed. The earth is helping us. Um, Things that are preserved in the earth that are being hidden by the Smithsonian or that are being shielded from the public, things that are being found and then being shielded from the public and trying to be erased from the internet. You just cannot continue to hide this information any longer. So the Most High has been showing me, and I've said it several times in previous videos, that I'm not African, that I'm indigenous to this nation. And and even as I was reading in Genesis, when in Genesis 15, when the Most High told Abram, know of a surety that your children will be enslaved, in a land that's not theirs for 400 years. And after that, I will bring them back with great substance. And then when you oh my goodness, I hate that I lost my Bible. Because I circled and highlighted so many verses that correlated, but he said, I will bring them back here. And here it says here, and even when we go to Deuteronomy, uh what is it, Deuteronomy 28, it says that the stranger will come in, they will eat your crops, they will take your fields, they will have the best of, and so it was different verses that were telling me like, hey, this is saying like our land is right here somewhere. And and there are books and there are other people that have done the work um saying that America is the true old world and that everything was rewritten, it was changed around. So we're going to get into a little commentary about that today, about America being the true old world. Oh, I wanted to start off with Deuteronomy 6 and 4, the Hebrew Credo, Shema Yasharahla Ahaya Elahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad. Hear, O Yasharahla, Ahaya, our power is one. He is Akkad. He is not an unholy trinity. He is one. Okay, so this is a video that I pulled up and it's saying what Utah, the state of Utah and the Holy Land have in common. They have so much in common. Let's take a look. Let me try and skip forward a little bit. Okay, here we go.
In Utah, we all know and love. Well, except for some 2,000-year-old Roman ruins. It is actually Israel. And that range lining the Dead Sea in Jordan is Moab. There is no doubt that this is Moab. Now, up on top of that range is Mount Nebo. Well, not exactly the Mount Nebo of Juab and Utah counties, but one of the number of Utah places named after biblical locations.
What happened was these steps took you to the top of a flat walkway.
There is a scholar who knows them all and their Utah counterparts. The Reverend Canon Mary June Nestler has been an archaeologist and teacher throughout the Holy Land for decades.
I want you to find the city wall. That's a 4th century wall.
She now lives in Jerusalem as the course director of the prestigious St. George's College in Israel. Prior to this work, she lived in Utah for a decade.
My goodness, Israel looks so much like parts of Utah. Sometimes I'll look up and wonder where I am.
Of course, you will find the 156-mile-long River Jordan in the Holy Land, and it is surprisingly about the size of the Jordan River in Salt Lake County. And like the Utah counterpart, people have lived along its banks for thousands of years. And how about the Jericho sand dunes of Utah? Well, this is Jericho, and these are the dunes of the Judea Desert. Now, the dunes aren't quite as sandy as in Utah, more rocky, but you can see that they were well named in Utah. And besides, it is here that you find the original 4x4 of the desert dunes. No, this is not a fun ride. Not at all. There is no good way on or off. Now, Canon Nestler says you'll find hundreds of locations in America named after biblical places, not just because they look like their counterparts, but because religious people honor those places with the new locations in America.
They had no idea, in most cases, what the actual biblical places looked like. But they were dear to them, dear in their hearts. And when they founded places and they needed to name a river, they needed to name a town, they naturally looked to the scriptures for inspiration.
But whether pioneers saw these places or were just inspired by the accounts in the Bible, Utah is pretty close to much of the land. For example, I just thought that this canyon looked like the land outside of Price.
Well, it's a lot of fun because when I'm riding around and I see the name of a place that I know from Utah and I know I'm halfway around the world, it jogs my memory of good things.
Oh, and of course there is the Dead Sea. Now, you can't help but think of the Great Salt Lake, and why isn't our Salt Lake really named after the Dead Sea? Well, actually, it does have the same name as the body of water when you look at the literal translation of the name in Hebrew.
Yam HaMelach in Hebrew is the salt sea. So Utah has a great salt lake, and Israel and Jordan have a great salt lake.
But in Hebrew, it has pretty much the same name.
Exactly the same name.
And there is the same issue when one floats like a cork in this water. You usually do it only once. But again, it's interesting to see Utah is a lot like the Holy Land in topography, well, except for the Roman roads. Well, do you see Utah here? Okay, in your imagination.
Okay, so I want you all to focus on the fact that there are a few things that I want to point out. Okay, in the video, they were discussing the similarities of Utah with the land of Israel, the land of the Baalin, AIM. The only problem with that is that they tried to tell us that basically like the Mormons, the Church of JC and Latter-day Saints are the ones that gave all the areas of Utah these biblical names, and that they're the ones that were behind a lot of the buildings in Utah and why they are so close to the Holy Land, to what is over in the Middle East. The only problem is that Utah has had these names for hundreds of years. Prior to colonization, all of those areas had those names, and actually those names were incorporated in the United States. When the United States became the United States, all of those names were rolled over or incorporated into those lands. They were not new or newly given to them. In fact, what is called the Old World or Israel is actually much newer. If you all don't know, in 1919, the Rothschilds signed the Balfour Declaration saying that they were going to select or resurrect this state of Israel. And then on May 14th, 1948, they, I guess had a ceremony and named that place, the states of, and then they started flying in people from Poland, Germany, and America, and all parts of Europe into that land, people that they designated as the JEWS, that all actually have European lineage and no Semitic ties to, your code. So, and that's not how the Bible said that his people, once being expelled from their land, would re-enter the land. But actually, during colonization, these people, the Church of JC and Latter-day Saints went into that land and I guess recovered it and set up shop there as the JEWSs. Okay, because they're saying that they are the chosen. I had something else on my mind. Prayerfully, once again, it'll come back, and it will. All right, let's take a look at this. This is there are two books called America is a True Old World, and someone is just reading this from a little Facebook post.
This is Grenada, Israel, the Promised Land. All of these are biblical place names in Utah, including Jerusalem, Utah's nickname is the Beehive State. There is a mountain in eastern Nevada named Mount Moriah, and it is over 12,000 feet high. In Utah, not only is there a river Jordan, but it runs out of a freshwater lake into the Great Salt Lake, which is remarkably like the Dead Sea. There is also a Mount Nebo in Utah, approximately 12,000 feet high. So yes, with evidence this strong, the real Judah was in Utah. People try to say that it was the Mormons that gave these places like Utah biblical names to support their position as Jews. However, this explanation fails miserably because there are no 12,000 feet high mountains in modern day Israel. Therefore, the real Judah or Israel had to be in Utah because it fits the description of the kingdom of Judah perfectly. The name Utah is derived from the name of the Ute tribe. It means the people of the mountains in the Ute language. According to other sources, Utah is derived from the Apache name Yuda, which means tall. In the so-called Spanish language, it was said as Utah. Subsequently, the English-speaking people adapted the word Utah. There is no J in Hebrew, therefore Judah is Yuda, especially when you consider the fact that the J... Check this out. The Americas is Grenada.
Okay, and I'm just going to keep going. Let's see.
From our map system here, we're going to go from Moab, Utah, to Mount Nebo, Utah. We're going to use the walking feature, and you can actually walk it. This is about 284 miles total from Moab to Mount Nebo. And look at this, Nephi. Nephi, that is a word that's derived from Naphtali, one of the tribes of Israel. So now we're going to go from Mount Nebo, Utah, to Mount Pisgah, Utah. So from Mount Nebo, near Nephi, we go all the way across to Mount Pisgah, to the right of the Great Salt Lake, just right here. And by the way, Ogden, Utah is a major area for the Internal Revenue Service. And so now we go from Mount Pisgah over to Jericho. It all connects. It all connects. It is all here within walking distance, so that if Moses was standing at the top of the mountain, he could see these areas. They are in distance. He could see them if he stood at the top of this mountain. So when we talk about these areas being in another continent, the African continent or the Asia areas, all of that comes from reconstructed history. Everything was done here and moved there upon Pangea as
Okay, so hold on, guys. And as you all know, I will post the videos below for you as references. So, matter of fact, the mountain, there is no mountain over in the land today in the Middle East. There's a hill that they say that they call that they call the mountain or whatnot, but it's literally a hill. It's not a mountain at all. It's probably a few hundred. Um, it may be like 200 feet high, but it's a hill. It's not a mountain as the Bible describes. So you all know about the movie The Chosen. The movie The Chosen, uh, they chose to record several of the scenes in Utah. This is Utah, you all. Okay, and it's saying watch The Chosen. Let's keep going. So I found this, I saw this news article that says the Council General of Israel visits Utah, and he believes that the Beehive State can help in their future.
The Consul General of Israel paying Utah leaders a visit this week, but his focus was not just on the conflict here. He sat one-on-one with news specialist Aaron Cox, where he spoke of hope for Israel's future because of Utah. It's an interview you'll only see right here.
It's Israel Bahar's first time on Utah soil.
I found very warm people, humble.
The Pacific Southwest Consul General of Israel says he already sees similarities between Utah and Israel.
I think the shared values that we have because of our beliefs in the Bible, and the people who believes here also in the Bible, it's give a lot of companionship.
Bahar met with Governor Cox, toured Latter-day Saint Charities and the Orem Temple, establishing relationships to increase business opportunities between his nation and our state.
Utah is experiencing a booming in its economy, and we need to tap into these opportunities between the Israeli market and the Utah market.
What economic opportunities do you see in Israel that could benefit Utah?
Creativity, science, and a very strong spirit of entrepreneurship. So that's what Israel brings to the world, and it's in our new economy.
Is there a future of business in Israel?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the Israeli economy are going to bounce very fast after we're going to end this war, probably in the next few months, and the economy is going to bounce.
And though Israel is in the midst of conflict, Bahar called it a startup nation, with a future he believes Utah can help build through business connections.
Just increase the business relationship with Israel and be morally clear as they are. They need to understand it's a good versus evil, and people understand the realities on the ground and what Israel is experiencing, what we are dealing with. We are thankful for this support.
Okay. And then there's another video that I also pulled up. I may link it below, but I won't show it. It was from the leaders of the land in the Middle East met with the leaders of Utah about conserving water, and basically Utah is in the process of starting a water conservation project that will mirror what they're doing over in the Middle East. And but it's really scary when I listen to it because it talked about tariffs and how much water is being consumed, and the water will be like government owned and kind of rationed. It was just a little scary to listen to, but I will link that below. And it's like, why is Utah, out of all the United States, why is Utah such a focus with the Middle East? But if you were to look at old maps, and I think I do have one that will kind of show a rendition of if the true Holy Land being in the U.S., it falls in that Utah, Nevada, Colorado area. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so now, yeah, I'm going to go to, this is referred to in one of the videos. It's called Mystic Masonry. I will link it below, but you all know, anytime you're reading Freemason type books, just be very prayerful and mindful before you just freely read it. And definitely pray and cover yourself with the blood of Ahayasha. Okay. What I wanted to read, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read verses 5 and 6 on page 24 of Mystic Masonry, and then I will go down to, I believe, page 27. But page 5 and 6 says, it is a fact that at Memphis, Egypt, in the pyramids, under the guidance of the kings, the mystic rites of masonry were worked many thousands of years ago. But at that time, Egypt and the continent of America were one and the same. In America, rediscovered in the 15th century and repopulated in the 17th, was recovered Egypt and the Promised Land, or the land of the constellation of the eagle. So there are old books that say when Columbus came to America, I told you all he did not stumble upon this land. He specifically was looking for the Promised Land, and he was looking for the Hebrews, and he brought Hebrew interpreters with him here because he expected to find ancient Egypt and ancient Jerusalem. And this just corroborates it. It says that what people don't know is that many thousands of years ago, at the time of Egypt and the continent, that the time of Egypt and the continent of America were one and the same. And then what the next verse, America rediscovered in the 15th century in 1492, supposedly when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and repopulated in the 17th century in the 1800s when thousands of migrants from Spain, from Italy, from Ireland, and various nations in Europe came over on boats. Now I'm going down to page 27. I'm going to read the first two verses. America, or Atlantis, and as a certain which has hereto concealed the prehistoric connection between the people of ancient Egypt and of America, is lifted. So it's saying the curtain that has hereto concealed the prehistoric connection between the people of ancient Egypt and of America is lifted. And it will be seen that the people of the eagle on the Nile, being descended from the original people of the eagle of this continent, the two are one, and that prehistoric America was the original Egypt or Eagle Land prior to the mighty dispensation in the days of Peleg, when the earth was divided and the great globe itself was nearly rent asunder. Verse 10 says, the firstborn amongst the continents, America, has been falsely denominated the New World, but hers was the first dry land that lifted out of the waters. Hers was the first shore that was washed by the ocean that developed all of the earth besides. And while Europe was represented only by islands rising here and there above the sea, America or Atlantis already stretched in an unbroken line of land from Nova Scotia to the far west. Once again, this will be linked, but this is stating that America is the true old world. You know, they hide stuff in books and they make these books really expensive or really hard to get. So this is somewhat of a depiction of what the Old Testament map would look like in the current United States. And I don't know if you all are aware that this sea here in between Mexico and California it was called the Red Sea. And Egypt would have stretched from here, well, in the Texas area, all the way over to like North, South Carolina and Georgia and Florida, like all of this bottom part, the southeastern part of the United States would have been Egypt. And that's so coincidental because those are the very states that the entire United States did not have slavery. Those were the states that had slavery, were the southeastern states. And people were trying to flee from those states, to flee north or to flee west to get out of the southeastern states, or basically leave Egypt. And remember, the Most High said, I will send you back to Egypt. If you start to transgress against my law, you're going back into slavery, back in Egypt. People translate that to, oh, he meant he was sending them back to spiritual Egypt because Egypt means bondage. But no, he said you're going back. He said the same way you came, you're going back. But this time by boat. Because why? Because the first time they walked over. But this time they'll be going by boat because he's not going to dry the land. When they escaped Egypt and went into their promised land, he dried the ground and they were able to walk over. But this time you're going to have to take a boat back. You're going back there by boat. So what we know as like the Gulf of Mexico is actually the Gulf of Egypt or the Egyptian Sea. All right, so this is just back in the 1800s, just like that book said. I just typed immigrants on ships in the 1800s. And just like the book said, America was rediscovered in the 1500s and repopulated in the 1800s. And here you go. You have, this is ports of immigrant ships. These are the JEWISH coming in on boats. That's a larger image of it. Here are, I don't know if this was I think this is the Irish coming in on boats. Here are Italian immigrants coming in on boats by the droves. And, here's another boat full of immigrants coming in. So we don't see a physical depiction of our people being, when you go to the transatlantic slave trade, you see a lot of drawings of, melanated people being shipped throughout the world or bound on slave ships. But we can physically see in the 1800s, thousands and thousands of immigrants from various countries coming in to this land. All right, Isaiah 11:15 reads, "The Most High will dry up the gulf of the Egyptian sea. With a scorching wind, he will sweep his hand over the Euphrates River. He will break it up into 7 streams so that anyone can cross over in sandals." So the current Nile that is in the land in the Middle East looks like this. And it goes just, it's kind of like a straight line going up the Egyptian desert. All right. And then it just goes into this body of water here, and which doesn't fit the description of the 7 streams. But when you look at the Mississippi, let me try to move this over. The Mississippi, which runs in the Gulf of Mexico, which would be the Gulf of Egypt, the Mississippi, which is the true Nile, runs up, and it has 7 streams that runs out of it. We have the Atchafalaya. We have the Red Sea. I'm sorry. The Red River, the Arkansas River, the Missouri River, the Mississippi River, the Illinois River, Ohio River, and Tennessee River. These are the 7 streams that run off of the true Euphrates. Give me 1 second, you all. All right, sorry about that. I had to turn the light back on. And so I've made videos about Walter Plecker. Walter Plecker changed many indigenous people nationality from Indian to Black or colored. And there was a genocide by pen that took place. And so and then I told you all how hundreds of records, thousands of records throughout the United States just mysteriously burnt down because all of these vital record places just were being set on fire, just burning down out the blue, so that people could not go back. But let's take a look at this man that was tracing the his grandparents and what he sees. He sees in one census they are his grandfather's labeled as an Indian, and the next census is Black.
Like this, you already know that this guy John Henry Cooper is the son of Sam Cooper, the son of Israel Cooper. We already went over that, and he could find him on the. We found him on the Dawes Rolls, but check this out, right? So Sam Cooper, 50, his last son, John Cooper, 1 male, he was Indian. No white, no black or color were checked on this. for the Choctaw Nation 1885 census, right? But get this, right? Then next census we go over. There he is. He's the son. Look at him. They were recorded as black. How do you like that, huh? His mom is the head of the house by now. She's recorded as black.
Okay, so you see, he was just looking at records where in one census, Choctaw listed as Choctaw Indian and on the Dow's roll, and that by the next census they were black. African American. The term African American is a federal government term describing property. It's not a race of people. Property has no race classification. Property has no human rights. Example, Trayvon Martin was considered property owned by the United States of America, which is a corporation, and he had no human rights. The term African American is a 14th Amendment citizen made property by Executive Order 13037, and this was signed into law by Bill Clinton. In 2010, a so-called African American man discovered that his family's bloodline was type O, and like many dark people living in Memphis, and his family descended from Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas area, which is historically homeland to the indigenous people, to the Spanish invaders called Indians or Indinos. Unfortunately, because they were dark Indians, the U.S. legally but unlawfully classified each as Negro.
By that. What I really mean by that, that's what I really mean.
Remember that big Indian dude in that movie? Mm-hmm. He was cool. And then he couldn't talk unless he was talking about gum.
Yeah. You know, I think you're not supposed to say Indian either.
No way, really?
Yeah. I think you're supposed to call them African Americans.
They always hide the truth in plain sight. If you all don't remember the show, the cartoon Beavis and Butthead, they're saying you don't call them Indians anymore. Like, that's not politically correct. I think you should call them African Americans now.
Just go into a country, plague the whole place out, and then take over their buildings. New York was already there for thousands of years. San Francisco was there for thousands of years. Los Angeles was there for thousands of years. They were built by the indigenous people who were black and Indians as well.
Whoa.
The black people, they are the original owners of America. Black people, African Americans, they were already here, and they plagued them out. And they stole the Smithsonian Institute, which is Jesuit controlled, stole their knowledge, stole their history, and now we're just left wondering who we are, where we come from, where we're going. We don't know anything.
$5. That is all it takes.
Please.
Remained hid, or they lied about their race, if they could pass for Caucasian or if they could pass for black. They took on another ethnic identity. But when they did that, they lost their culture. They had to hide and pretend. So now, today, people get really upset and say, well, you're not really Indian. Well, yes, they are. they had to lie about who they were. They lost, for lack of a better word, their public identity.
It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you.
Okay, the original people of the Americas were reclassified from Indian to Negro. But once we started doing the research and realizing that Negro and Negus all tied the history on that being the basically like the Black elite and the descendants of King David's were called, Negus. Then we started being called African Americans, and they put people in place like Boulay, people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, and people like that in place to tell us that we are Black and we are African American. These people that are Freemasons, started telling us that, we're Black, we're African American, and getting people to be on board with that, when in the past I always knew growing up that I was Cherokee Indian, that I had Indian in my blood. My grandfather's a full-blood Indian. But I remember being in 3rd grade and going to school and being sat down for days, for almost a week. We were sat down and we had to watch Roots. We had to watch the movie Roots, and we were being told, you're from Africa. This is what your ancestors went through. You all are African American. You all are African slaves. And, and then, of course, you had to start the indoctrination at a young age. And we're just like, well, but I thought I was Indian. Okay, so did my Indian people, like my Indian forefathers, did they mix with the Africans? Because I always knew I was Indian. And we started questioning and believing that we were really from Africa, when the slave trade was actually taught to us in reverse. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 ships actually came over from Africa, but the majority of slavery, 90%, was Indians going out. So you take that slave trade route and back and flip it. Not people coming into the ports, but people going out. And then this is just a video that I saw of a gentleman that he's made several videos about Egypt being in America, America being a true old world, and he shows archaeological evidence of ancient buildings, ancient pyramids. America has the largest amount of pyramids than any nation in the world, and basically they built the Jerusalem over there, and they built the Egypt over in the Middle East to mimic America, like the other guy said.
Build no slave ship, we ain't make those anchors, we ain't plot those grave sites up since daylight, burdened by the things we try to make right. It's gonna be a late night, so much turmoil makes my blood boil. Kundalini encore, earth is sunbroad, dirt is unsoiled.
Okay, so I'm stopping it here. So he's showing, this is titled the fake pyramids it's supposed to be the pyramids of Giza, but look, he's showing, look at these, he's gonna point to, I don't know if these are train tracks, or if these were some type of tracks that they were using to roll this over there, but let's keep going. I'll move this back up top. So see how he's pointing, showing that there's a structure here that looks like some type of a track. I don't know if it's train tracks or if it's just tracks that they may have used to wheel the heavy rocks over to build these pyramids.
Watch it unfold, stories untold, copyright unsold, books with one spine, ghosts with one soul. They want control, you want control, but we share one goal. We fight one foe, set your front door, and it keeps knocking, but the people kept rocking, yeah. It keeps knocking, but the people kept rocking, yeah. Can't stop, flex, whatever they do. They can't stop, keeps knocking, keep rocking, yeah. They can't stop us, no, nah.
Okay, so this looks like a photo of them. I mean, not a photo, but an actual video of them actually constructing the pyramids. We see the ladder here going up to the face, and we see the face here on a crane, getting ready to be put over on front of this, in the front of this statue here. So, and this is supposedly what the pyramids of Giza or whatever, this is supposedly in Egypt. They're constructing this. So see, they have to show us, you know, that's a part of, that's how it works. And that's what, you know, Freemasons believe, that if they show us, it's just a law that we have to be shown. So they keep the information out there, and it's kind of like, well, it was out there, or we showed them. And, you know, if you miss it or it goes over your head, then that's on you, but they don't feel like they can be held accountable if they did show you or let you know. So once again, here is, you know, those were actual pyramids and a whole crew working on putting them together. And that's the same thing that they did when in 1948, when they went over, and I guess from 1919, when the Rothschilds signed the Balfour Declaration, to 1948, they were building up that state of Jerusalem. And then and in 1948, they officially declared it a state and started flying people in. So anyway, just something to think about. There's another video that I saw where the guy, he was showing where all of the animals that are referred to in Egypt in the Bible, and the descriptions are all, like, all of the animals are indigenous to the United States, not to that land where Egypt currently is. They're indigenous to the North or South Americas. So anyway, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. You all have a great rest of your day. Shabbat Shalom, and happy Day of Atonement. Until the next video, Most High permits. Shalom.